My name is Christoph from CBR Technology in California. We are Microsoft Certified Business Central Partner, and today we'd like to discuss tariffs and other landed costs that need to be added to the cost of an inventory item prior to utilizing those items within your supply chain of Business Central. With that in mind, I would like to go over this chart here first before we dive into Business Central. It discusses the various landed cost and tariff-related accounting methods that Business Central makes available. Specifically, you can have PO-related expenses, and that's obviously what tariffs are primarily focused on. And that is the ability to take any expense, including ocean freight, insurance, brokerage fees, demurrage charges, things of that nature, that you would like to add to the cost of an item, so that when the real cost in your inventory item system is quite substantially different than what the actual last direct cost of an item is, which is the cost that you issue a purchase order for typically. However, I do want to mention that Business Central also has the capability of adding landed cost to warehouse transfers as well as sales order related sales shipments. So that would be in the case of you paying for an LTL carrier or some other outbound expense charge, and you are paying for the freight as a distributor or manufacturer, and you want to make sure that those costs are properly associated with the cost of that sales transaction as well. So here is a Business Central sample company called Kronos Distribution. Obviously, it's based on Kronos USA. However, we made some distribution manufacturing related adjustments to this data set. And I'm pretending to process a invoice from a brokerage account, a brokerage company that is billing us for all the expenses surrounding a shipment that we received via ocean freight. So on the purchase invoice environment, I'm simply going to create a new invoice here, and I'm going to take it from the top. And again, I have a sample vendor in here called Brokerage Stephen Smith, and this is the brokerage company. And of course, I'll be giving that an invoice number and an invoice date that you can see here, potentially some description. But then the key in this process will be to go into the item types here and select the charge item option instead of the item option. Obviously, we're not buying actual inventory from this company. Unfortunately, I feel Microsoft has chosen this language as charge item a little misfortunately, because it's misleading. But however, in the setup of this particular software company, we set up a number of purchase-related item charges. As you can see here, we went in quite detail with regards to brokerage fees, insurance, ocean freight, tariffs, and such things. Obviously, today I'd like to focus on tariffs, so I'm going to grab tariffs here. It specifies some further details on whether or not this is a 10, 25, 30% tariff or whatever you might get. And you enter a quantity of one and then the dollar amount. So in my case here, I'm going to say, okay, I got a $20,000 tariff that I need to process. And maybe on the same invoice from the broker, I did not only get a tariff charge, but I also saw a ocean freight charge that was related to the same shipment. And here we are adding multiple lines to this purchase invoice for various dollar amounts that you can distribute. So there's no limit to how many lines you can have on here. Obviously, we're focusing on tariffs, but this could work for ocean freight, landed cost, air freight, insurance, any of the items you might typically encounter in your operations. So once you have put in the regular dollar amounts, you have to have one more step that gets completed, which is what's called item assignment. So item assignment will now take this total of $25,000 expense and associate it with a specific item. So again, from a previous conversation, this can be a purchase order related transaction, a sales related transaction, or a transfer related transaction. So I'm going to go into line, and it's under related information called item charge assignment. There's another way to navigate to it, which I will show you in a bit as well. And you click item charge assignment. In this screen here, you'll see a number of choices. The one we care about for today's walkthrough will be the receipt line option. Obviously, these are purchase receipts. So you will not see purchase orders here. These are purchase receipts. Obviously, they're related to a purchase order, but they are a separate transaction. So I'm going to go to get receipt lines, and it shows me all the items that I have received. In my case here, I want to relate it to one PO that had multiple lines on it. So part of the conversation, of course, is to see how many POs I might have on this invoice and how many line items will be on this invoice. So in my case here, I'm going to pretend to have an invoice for a single PO receiver, which contains a total of 3 particular different items. In this case, it's 3 different chairs. If you had multiple POs here, you would simply select all the ones that you need to select, and they do not have to be in sequence. So you can simply select whatever is appropriate. So in my case here, I have 3 items that we need to deal with. I'm going to hit OK. It brings the 3 items in there. And at this point, I can either manually assign the dollar assignment if I want to go through the mathematical nightmare of doing that, or I can hit this button that says Suggest Item Charge Assignment. And I now get 4 choices that I can utilize to deploy the computation that is being used. For tariff purposes, you would typically select amount because the tariff is a percentage of an amount. So as such, that would be the most beneficial process. Equally, we'll simply take a third, because it's 3 items, and take a third across the board. Weight, we'll look at each item's weight and apply it based on weight. And volume, which is actually quite popular with those importers that import 40-foot containers and such, by volume, and select that choice as well. So these are the 4 choices you can use. I'm going to use amount and just hit OK. As you can see here, the dollar amount was distributed across the board on these 3 items. Notice now that the quantity to assign now says 1, which means my quantity 1 of the item has been fully assigned. The other one is still 0. And I showed you before where you can go to item or related information, item charge assignment, which is a few clicks for a few folks, a little difficult to find. And of course in Business Central, you can move it onto the main menu if you like to do that with some modifications. But I'd simply click on 0 here and I get to the same screen. So I'm back now down to the assignment screen. Again, I would hit Get Receipt Lines and do the same process. I would like to make sure you see the other choices here. There's actually one other option which I have not even mentioned yet, which is returns. So there's a couple other features in here. Again, these are more rare, but if you have returns from customers and or returns to vendors, you can also apply a cost to that as well. Again, the whole purpose of this is to take your actual charges you're getting for shipping and tariff and other expenses of this nature and apply them to the value of the item in order to reflect that as the value of the item in the inventory asset account. Will then eventually move into cost of goods sold as you sell the item or use the item in a production run, but it will not be showing on the expense section of your P&L immediately. So again, I'm going to hit Get Receipt Lines, finding all my POs. Obviously, there's a search function where you can find a specific transaction that you like to look for. And again, you would just simply select more, select all the items in question, hit OK, get the 3 items on there, hit the compute again to calculate it by amount, and now I've taken the $20,000 tariff and applied it across the board on these items. Go ahead and hit close, and now this item has been processed. So when you do a post on this particular transaction, you will see, in addition to, of course, our expected vendor ledger entry and what have you, the one I like to bring to your attention is this value table right here. It's called value entry. And so a lot of folks that may not be dealing with landed costs may not be aware of this table, but in the inventory management system in Business Central, there's 2 tables that are key to understand the costing structure within the system. One is, of course, the inventory ledger table itself, which is what most people look at. But in addition to that, you need to look at the value entry table, and that's the table that actually has the details on it as to how the cost is computed and composed, and that's the one you want to analyze when you are looking to get a good understanding of your total cost structure for a given item. Certainly, CBR Technology will be happy to assist you with writing any sort of reports to analyze this information. We typically do that in Power BI, and certainly we have Power BI programming services we offer in this area. So please feel free to reach out to us, and we'll be more than happy to assist you with your Business Central implementation. And if you are simply using another Microsoft partner for billing purposes and they do not know Business Central, please consider coming on board with CBR Technology as your partner of choice. We'd love to work with you if you're located in the United States of America. Take care.